Agent 24, Ukraine Media Center starts its operation. My name is Svetlana Cheparenko, and now we are going to discuss the aftermath of the latest enemy's attack on the cities of Ukraine. And first of all, Kyiv, again, a lot of casualties. We'll discuss it with Mr. Oleksandr Khorunzhyi, spokesperson for the State Emergency Service of Ukraine. Good afternoon, Mr. Oleksandr. Good afternoon. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. So, another night, there was a strike on Ukrainian cities, on residential buildings. We know about the casualties, the injured, the dead. So what do we know for the time being? Are there rescue works over by now? Yeah, there was another massive strike. The main target of the enemy was the city of Kyiv and the region of Kyiv. Well, talking figures. 9 dead, including 4 women. 5 men, one of them underage, 11 years, 38 injured in Solomiansky, Svetoshinsky, Shevchenkivsky districts of the city of Kyiv. Different degrees of injuries, different types of injuries, bruises, fractures, cuts, acute stress reaction, and so on and so forth. Some of the casualties were hospitalized to mitigate the consequences of the strike. More than 400 rescuers and 100 units of material were engaged. The rescuers were working in 15 locations, residential areas, business centers, infrastructural facilities. There was a lot of work to do, and there was a resolution made to involve additional capabilities. We engaged climbers from the region, then mobile rescue center. In fact, those people, the special operations of State Emergency Service of Ukraine, those who fulfill the most difficult tasks on clearing the debris and rescue of people. What else I would like to add? All of the fires were put out. There was headquarters deployed for mitigation of the consequences. I'm talking first of all about this residential building in Shevchenkivsky district where 9 people were killed. There were canine units operating as well as robotized material. By the way, I want to extend my appreciation to all of the foreign partners who hand over such type of machinery to us. The robot that was working was from Kyiv organization from Germany. So that robot was clearing the debris. There was a lot of cars damaged around the area, and to clear the passageways for special material, including heavy engineering material, we had to clear the alleyways, and such robotized machines were helping us a lot. In this sense, the rescuers had to cut some trees so that some heavy material, the cranes which lift the heavy plates, could get to the area. Well, the building was not new, and that strike, well, the missile strike, you know, it completely destroyed, to smithereens, this structure, and we had to clear it all, taking into account the fact that there might be alive people under the debris. That's why the rescuers always work with care, because there was a case in Turkey when we found, when our rescuers, the team of our rescuers who were helping the Turkish colleagues, they found a woman under the debris on the 9th day. That's why we always have a hope that someone might have stayed alive. Generally, in this building, the rescuers rescued 10 people. they were engaged in the cranes. In this footage, you can see the cranes. You see the way that the rescuers used the cranes to rescue those who were still alive. A lot of concrete was evacuated from the area. There were 120 persons who were experiencing acute stress reaction. That's why we involved the aid of psychologists who were always on spot, who spent the whole night there. They were helping the relatives of the victims of the strike to cope with it. And the rescuers were working on rotation basis so that they could take breaks, because the work is really very difficult. Short information about this specific location. There was another strike on a medical facility in the city of Bila Tserkva, which resulted in death of one person and 8 more persons being injured. The strike resulted in fire in the area of more than 1,500 square meters. The rescuers were providing all of the aid necessary. The fire was put out. Those who were the two, well, in Kyiv region, the rescuers were working in 15 locations in Kyiv, 15 locations in the city of Kyiv and 9 locations in the Kyiv region, and one of the biggest one in the city of Bila Tserkva. Are the rescuers over in all of the sites by now? Well, there is a phase of rescue and emergency mitigation works. That's when the rescuers are searching for all of the victims who, by the time of the missile strikes, could have been staying in the building. And based on the reports that we're getting from the relatives of the victims, of the police, we verify all of the information. Basically, we check every single corner. The works are still underway, but it's not search and rescue works anymore. That's the emergency mitigation phase of work to facilitate the work of the utility services, to remove some hanging elements of structures, anything that may pose a threat to the people, and to help the people who need to get to the adjacent areas, adjacent rooms, to carry away all of their belongings. But their search and rescue works, I mean, those that are related to the search of the people under the debris, they are over. Well, what complicated the work of the rescuers on site this time? Well, just like always, according to the developed procedures, Ministry of Interior and State Emergency Service of Ukraine, we have to preserve the lives of our people, and we have to disperse our personnel during the air raid alerts, because unfortunately we have cases of repeated strikes. They still take place, and we have to take maximum care to make sure we keep our people alive. I want to mention once again, our country is in the middle of the unjustified war against the cowardly aggressor who has no principles. By now, we have 105 rescuers dead and 502 representatives of State Emergency Service were injured. That's why we always use different procedures. We do the aerial reconnaissance, disperse the personnel, but the work gives you no 100% guarantee you can save your people, because we're always rescuing other people, and it's always a risk. Just half an hour ago, we found out that the enemy inflicted a strike on Dnipro. There was a strike inflicted on some residential areas. There were injured. Yes, there is information about injuries. I can verify it. And just shortly, we are about to provide a press release for media, for the public. We always have to verify all of the information in order to inform the society properly. Well, you've mentioned that the rule of two walls doesn't work anymore. It may protect against some debris, but not against direct missile strike. What about the shelters equipped in regular apartment blocks? We know our shelters are not perfect, and usually just basements can be used as shelters. Are they really effective? Can they really save lives? Look, we have a DIA application. I keep saying it again and again. In DIA application, there is a map of shelters. It's approved. There were relevant inspections of those shelters. And if such a premise is identified as shelter, it can be used. It will improve your chances of survival. I advise, since the beginning of the war, for every family to discuss such things as, in case of alert, where are we going? Where do we meet? Everyone should have an emergency backpack that should contain copies of the documents, your bank cards, a reserve of cash, small reserve of some snacks with long shelf life, maybe some canned food, matches, flashlight, candles, so that you could make fire in case of necessity and light up your way. Also, there should be some things like power bank, telephone, maybe even a dumb phone. It can keep the charge for a longer period. Maybe some cutlery. Some elementary things that may help you to survive the aftermath of the shelling. Then the shelters. Please get yourself familiarized with the locations of the shelters. Choose the closest one, and you may hide there in case of emergency. Thank you, dear colleagues. Do we have any questions to our guest? If so, please make yourself known. Yes, thank you. Georgy Rezhenko, Apostrophe TV. A question about the missile. Yesterday, I was talking to Igor Klimenko, the Minister of Interior. He said that the missile penetrated the whole building all the way down to the basement. We visited the site with our group, so the basement is not still clear. Do we have any information about the missile itself? Is it Korean or something?
Well, you see, this is the question not for the emergency service of Ukraine, because there are certain investigators that are trying to determine what kind of rocket it was. The evidences are getting collected. The emergency service does not do things like this because it's not under the functionality prescribed to our institution, to our institution. So that's where these questions should be directed at. Yes, there's another question. Maybe it's not directly to you. However, we see that often the governing bodies provide different information about the quantity of the injured or wounded or deceased. So who is responsible for the primary initial figures regarding the injured? Is it a question of communication, maybe, or who should we better address to in case of contradictions in this information? Well, I can say only about the emergency service. As you witnessed just now, I have answered the question of how many injured there are in Dnipro. I said that this information has to be agreed upon first, and only after that I can provide you any kind of information. So this is the way in general, when there is a contradictions and the difference between numbers is, for example, 1, 2 people, it can happen because you know, there is a lot of communication channels are active during these times, and so after that the data can be corrected, agreed, finalized, some kind of precision. We are not in a hurry, you know, to provide information, especially information kind of like this. So this is kind of a complicated process when this information has to be agreed by different bodies that are involved in the incident or in the consequences mitigation process. So there could be some kind of differences. So, but there are going to be a question in English.
Tampa, Florida, United States. I came to Kyiv yesterday, and when the alarms went off, I noticed many people said, nah. They just ignored the alarm, kept working, kept walking. Have you seen delays? Have people become tired of the alarms? Have they become numb to the alarms? Which is very common since things have gone on for so long. What's your thoughts on that? You're very good about the alerts and telling people to go to shelters, but they seem to become numb from so many days and so many years of hearing the alarms.
В цілому запитання було про
Well, I couldn't make it. Well, the question was that we have very well aligned processes, and still people keep ignoring the alarm. What's your attitude to the fact that people keep doing their things, like ignoring the alarm? Well, my attitude is negative. State emergency service cannot take it positive because, I mean, it can transform into casualties. The latest shellings of the 5th of the 6th, 17th, the night of 23rd, all those dates when there was a lot of casualties, a lot of people killed, those are massive strikes. So, yes, we see people not always caring. Maybe they are tired. Maybe the number of alerts is growing and people just want to take a break at home, take some rest. But we always keep saying, and we will keep saying, that they should take shelter because this is the only way they can improve their chances of survival. Thank you. Any more questions? Then I would like to thank you, Mr. Oleksandr. Let me remind you that we were talking about the latest enemy's attacks on Kyiv, and Ukraine Media Center will continue in just 7 minutes, and we'll talk about the results of this year's National Multidisciplinary Test and the lessons we are supposed to learn from this year's tests. Thank you. Thanks a lot.